Hi everyone! This week we're working on finishing up Project 3. So I want to take some time in one video just to talk through a few reminders to give you some strategies for things that you might be working on this week. Even if you feel like you've got most of the body of the essay finished, it's a good idea to look at it in a few different ways this week. I also want to reinforce some of the requirements of the assignment so that you can make sure that you have your portfolio for the assignment all put together to show your research work across this whole essay. And then the final version of the essay and the portfolio is due next Sunday night. Now, because it's the Thanksgiving holiday, I know some of you are probably planning to do a lot of work while you're on a break, and some of you would probably like to have some time to rest and relax, or maybe you have to work over the holiday. So I just want to encourage you to spend time early this week getting some things done so that you don't feel crunched over the long weekend. Okay, so here I am in the week 14 breakdown. You can see a few assignments, including watching the videos for this week. You'll watch this one, and then I may have another one for you. You will read Joy Ritchie's Beginning Writers article that's posted in this week's module. That is an academic article, scholarly article that I think you will find really helpful for framing Project 4. So you're going to write a reflection on Ritchie's article. You will start thinking through ideas for Project 4, the reflective argument essay. And so along with that, you're going to read and annotate the Project 4 assignment directions to get started thinking about that. So that at least by the end of the Thanksgiving weekend, you've thought through the idea that our final project for the class is a reflective argument in which you are demonstrating your work on course learning outcomes, and you're going to think about how you're going to present that in an essay, in a short portfolio presentation, and how you want to make that work. Okay, so then related to Project 3, you can check out this article or link about visual rhetoric on the Purdue OWL and read that to maybe inform your rhetorical choices in crafting the visual artifact part of the assignment. So let's jump over to the Project 3 assignment just to revisit this. Okay, so in this part of the assignment, you are rhetorically representing the ideas from your Project 3 researched argument conference paper into a visual artifact that you design. This artifact and a typed blurb describing it will be on display at the student writing showcase. Okay, so you're going to create something. What that is up to you. I'll talk through that in another video. And you're going to write 300 to 500 word reflection on it, and these pieces will go in your Project 3 folder in your OneDrive portfolio. And then remember that I will see all of these things in that portfolio. So I'll see your final paper that has 6 to 8 sources in it, at least 5 of those being scholarly sources, that uses MLA formatting and in-text citations and a works cited. But then I will also see drafts, your working bibliography, your annotated bibliography, your synthesis map, any kind of outlining that you've used, and that might look in a lot of different ways, peer review notes, all that kind of stuff turned into your OneDrive portfolio so that both you and I can see an overall picture of what this research project has looked like, at least over the last month. Keeping in mind that some of your research questions started for you much earlier, several months ago, working on the iSearch paper, or even things you were thinking about before that. So let's just talk about a couple of things that we want to keep in mind for finishing that up. I noticed as I was reading drafts in the last couple weeks, even just checking through the drafts that you submitted for peer review last week, that we do still have to do a lot of work on MLA formatting. And so I'm going to show you just a couple of things, and then what I want to primarily do is direct you to the Purdue OWL site for MLA formatting. I've linked you to this many times over the last several weeks, often leaving individual links in your comments. And I think you really can't have a better online style guide for using MLA formatting or APA formatting if you're doing that for another class. So hopefully by the end of this semester, you should be really familiar with this site and where to look for things. Even English teachers don't memorize formatting styles because, like in my scholarship, I have to use a lot of different formatting styles depending on the journal that I'm writing for. So for me, my best tool is to have a good reference guide. And often, because it's so accessible while I am writing on the computer, I use the Purdue OWL as my reference guide. Let's just talk about some basic formatting things that some people are still working on. At the top of my document, in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to type my name as the student. I'm going to type my instructor's name. But their actual name. I'm going to type the class that I'm writing for, and I'm going to type the date that I am actually writing that thing. If I'm doing revisions, I'll update the date, and that shows my professor or somebody else who's reading my work the last day that I worked on it. Then I'm going to skip one line and put the title of my paper. Okay, your title should focus your topic and purpose. It should not be Project 3. It should not be research project or research essay or argument essay. It should be something that shows your topic and your purpose. And in the assignment description, I think that there are a couple of examples of possible titles, or if they're not in this one, they are in the Project 1 assignment description. There are some examples of how you might title an essay. Okay, so notice that all of that stuff is double spaced. I want to make sure that I am on double spacing. Then I'll start typing my essay. It's also important that I have page numbers in here, so I'm going to find insert. And my menus might look a little bit different than yours, but for page numbers, pick the top of the page. Let's take a look at the Purdue OWL. Just a couple of things that I want to point out to you, highlight some resources. I left a couple of notes on the last set of drafts on block quote format. So to help me out with that, I'm going to go to the link that says formatting quotations, and I'm going to look at long quotations. For quotations that are more than 4 lines of prose or 3 lines of verse, place quotations in a freestanding block of text and omit quotation marks. So basically, you're going to tab indent the entire quote so it's separate up here, but you still have to have an introduction to the quote, and you put the in-text citation after the period in this case, and then you return over to the left justified paragraph to follow up that quote with your analysis. Okay, so if you've got any long quotes in there, make sure that you are formatting using this format. And then also make sure that you're not just leaving a long quote to stand by itself, but that you are following that up with several sentences explaining the information in the quote, analyzing it to show how it supports your major claim in that paragraph or the major claim of your essay. Don't just let quotes stand by themselves. Another thing that I found I was leaving a lot of notes on was on the works cited page, just knowing what that should look like. These are some rules. This is helpful. Begin your works cited page on a separate page at the end of the paper. Call it works cited. It's not references. It's not sources. This should be what's at the top of the page. It's also double spaced. Okay, and there's some other rules for special things. If you have questions on specific citations and you need some help, if looking at the guide isn't as helpful, those are great questions to ask me tomorrow at our workshop or to email me about, because I can totally help you pretty quickly with that. Here we go. Let's look at this sample works cited page. Okay, so we're just looking here on this side. One thing you should make sure that you do is please put all of your sources in alphabetical order. That might seem strange. You might think, well, what's the big deal? I only have 6 sources. Like, you can figure out where they are. But when you have a set of sources that's 10, 15, 20, 50 sources long, your readers need to be able to find the information about that source pretty efficiently in the works cited page, or think about how you might do that at the end of a book to figure out who's being cited. So make sure that they're alphabetized. And then remember that when you're trying to figure out what should go in the in-text citation in a paragraph, you use the first piece of information here. So the author's last name is sometimes the first piece of information. And if there's page numbers, then you put that with it. Let's see. In this case, the first piece of information is the title of the film. So you would put the title of the film in parentheses. This paper is really your chance to show that you are tuned into the idea that there are proper formats for academic writing and that you can pay attention to those and that you can work to responsibly cite your work and make sure that you're attending to detail. So please take some time with that. Okay, so those are just a couple of things to remind you about formatting your paper, but you may still be doing some work going back to read through your sources for information. And I would highly suggest that if you're having a hard time developing your points, working on the explaining parts of paragraphs, or figuring out how to work through integrating information from sources to fit with the main ideas of your paper, going back and reading your sources again, reading them more deeply, can help you think of more nuanced ways of explaining your ideas as well. So that might be a great idea if you're kind of like stumped. Maybe you're at 5 pages right now and you're thinking, how am I going to get 6 to 8 without adding a lot of fluff? Trust me, I don't want to read fluff. I don't want to read things repeated over and over again. A really great idea for early this week would be go back and read through your sources again. Have your pen out. Take notes on those sources. Even though you've already done it once or twice, maybe it's been a couple of weeks, take some time to do that and think about where those ideas work in your paper. Maybe they even add some depth to your paper that enhances your thesis a little bit. Hopefully I'll see some of you at the workshop tomorrow, or Michelle will see you in her library hours, and I look forward to reading your work.